ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಮೈತ್ರೇಯ ಚಾನಲ್ಗೆ ವೆಲ್ಕಮ್. A very hearty welcome to Maitreya. Today I have a very special guest. She is an epitome of grace and also she is a pioneer in geriatric care in our country. Extremely honored and privileged to have been talking to dear Pareira ma'am.
Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Pratibha. I'm head of the Department of Geriatrics, JSS Medical College of JSS AHER in Mysore. I have been a part of this a deep area of aging from 1995, where I realized that there is a shift in population and it needed a lot of understanding, especially in developing countries like India, where dealing with elderly population will be a challenge. I have been in this care of elderly, and there's a range of care that we do. That is from cure, which is not very often there, but care, palliative care, and also we do what is end of life care. I have been involved in a lot of research projects with the elderly with respect to nutrition, memory, and areas of mobility, as well as we have an area what is called as comprehensive assessment of the elderly, where we understand the range of physiology in the elderly. I was fortunate enough to be a part of lot of vaccination studies in elderly, how to prevent diseases, and also the latest one from ICMR, where we did research on in reintroducing BCG vaccinations in elderly. So research areas, it's not only cure or treatment, but we have to do a lot of preventive, as most of the clinical trials do not involve elderly as their target population. That's the brief introduction.
Starting with this question, what motivated you to be in this field?
It was in 95 when I noticed that there was some change in the patients that were coming to the hospital. And these were a set of patients who came with multiple problems, and they came walking, but we were not sending them home walking. We were sending them either on a wheelchair or they would be bedbound. And there was a different type of anxiety in this population. And slowly the age I saw, it was 60, 65. So there was something very different. And I wasn't very comfortable how we were dealing with them. And then I started keeping a track of these type of patients. I pulled out our files and I realized that there is something very different here, where we need to understand better to give them a better quality of life, which we were not doing. And that is what motivated me.
Yes. So glad that you've been adding so much value to our senior generation. I must ask you one thing. The more people who are aging, well, I do see that of course they're very positive about that they're aging, and of course they're very passionate about so many things, but what I do find in them is that mentally they are somewhere not very confident of where they're heading, and that leads to a lot of insecurity, maybe with regards to children taking care of them, not taking care of them, who's going to be there for them, so many things in the mind. Your experiences on that?
See, why this happened is it's not because of one reason. The society has set a mark, something we call it as retirement. So that begins a odd word called ageism. So, there is a sense in society that ageism means, well, these are things and they have branded them and this is what it's going to be. Secondly, as our lifespan is prolonging, nobody is getting prepared at 40, 50 what you are going to expect at 60, 70. So there is a difference between chronological aging and biological aging, and that's the conflict that is arising here. Most of the time society looks at chronological aging. Okay, mark it off, 60, 65, and that you're done with. But that is not aging. Aging is what biological aging is all about. And that depends upon how you lived your lifestyle and your DNA, your genetics, and so many things. Therefore, the body aging is something we are confused with chronological aging, and that's where they lose the confidence, because you're branded as old. So they really don't know what their inherent capacity is. Nobody allows them even to judge that.
Yes.
Whereas there is no aging for the mind unless you become Alzheimer's. You lose memory for so many reasons. You're active over here. Your mind remains at 20, 30. So these three areas of conflict. One, society looking at chronological aging, ageism. Secondly, your biological aging doesn't agree with this ageism that the society has created. And thirdly, your mind doesn't age. And this is where the conflict a person who is stepping into that age has to deal with and understand.
Very well said. Ma'am, I want to ask you one thing about empty nesters. So this concept of, yes, children are going to be there, they're going to take care of me when I grow old, that is actually not going to be true coming forth. I mean, the generation today, they're all going abroad to study and to work. So here, people in India, I mean, people who are aging in India have this very, very, very insecure feeling about they're not going to come back. How are they going to deal with this?
What you're saying is so true. When any patients come to me, there are so many elderly now living on their own, children abroad, and for them that is a very difficult to accept. And because this generation who are now in their 70s, 80s did look after their parents.
True.
They were there for their parents. The whole social structure has changed. And the ones who are 60s, 70s, 75, now I'm 65, I'm telling you on my thing itself, this generation did not know how to deal with life beyond the retirement for the men, and women did not sustain or work or were professionals as we are now.
True.
Okay, so all that they did was look after the children, cater for children and everything, and the life went so fast that they have not realized that they were a part of the social structure they created for their children. They wanted their children to go abroad. That was a pride moment for them.
Absolutely.
At that point of time. And then this side, say the society or the government or the community, they were not prepared to this large population which is going to be alive and be there in the society where they are dependable. So this section are dependently independent. They're independent, but they're dependent.
Absolutely.
And that dependency in certain areas, not that they're dependent, this is what has created, they didn't know what was coming on to them. And the society is not ready yet to support them.
And what impact do they have of, when it comes to their own mindset? They have everything, everything in terms of financial stability, in terms of what they need to do in their free time, everything is done, but they have this vacuum created inside them that, okay, my children are not here, so I'm not going to be that happy in life. So how do you think the mindset of children need to change, or the mindset of parents need to change?
Here I think the mindset of the parents need to change.
Okay.
That is my belief.
Okay.
Why? I'll explain to you. At the end of the day, it's our responsibility to take our life forward. And today we need to really understand the difficulty of the younger generation, the peer pressure, their sustenance in the professional field. It isn't easy for them. And it's not like olden days they had 10 children and someone would look after. See, this generation, we have less a number of children.
True.
So it's very difficult for the youngsters to really be with the parents and take care of the parents all the time.
When you say mindset of the parents need to change, how?
First of all, I think they need to come out of this, that my life is done. It is not done.
True.
That is where I told you we need to understand the biological aging. They have a lot of capacity which professionally they did not bring it out. It is this time that we need to, get these people out and prove it to them that your life is not over. There are lots of things that the society is asking of you. And you need to do these things for the society because that is your responsibility. In olden days, there were 4 sections for a man. That is Balya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyasatva.
Correct.
So the stage of Vanaprastha, people are not doing it. Vanaprastha means you go to society and return to society what the society gave you back. It is when we do something else for someone, our mind becomes happy, we feel worth it, and we can give a much healthier days and years to ourselves. That what I say is you don't add years to life, but add life to your years.
Wonderfully said.
This is the transition which we need to bring.
Absolutely.
We are remaining at Grihastha. That is where the victimization syndrome, I call it,
Correct.
and the unhappiness is all brewing.
Absolutely. When you say people think that their life is done, it's a general statement when it comes to seniors. What advice would you give to our senior generation, senior members of the society, for them to feel alive?
Okay. So, see, at the end of the day, it's individual driven. So, there are elderly who are easily motivated and we can bring them out. Just like students in a class.
Okay.
You have few students, you don't have to tell them and they will deal with it. So, there are elderly who understand, they have come out, they're doing things to the society. Then there are middle set of students, there are few who whatever you do, those students just not going to listen.
Correct.
Well, you'll have to deal it differently. But there's a large section to whom you counsel, you reach out, you give an option.
Correct.
For them to take.
Absolutely.
And that is what community, society and government needs to do. You create an opening. Start off, you have so many portals today, there are so many apps, there are so many ways to reach out to them. You give them options. The first thing I say is retirement, you retire them, okay, but then you reassess cognition, physical.
Absolutely.
You open up job portals. Okay, so many hours, so many things, you do job, you earn. That itself gives everybody a sense of belonging. That is one section. Next section, you have activity centers where they all come together, be it yoga, be it whatever, activity center that they come get involved in.
Yes.
And next, how you, without earning, you give it back to society. For example, you're a good teacher, all orphan children, you reach out to them and you adopt 2-3 orphan children and then you train them, mix with students. So one area what I feel is that the elderlies have to mix with youth. Join in the youth movement, join with youngsters. Second, their own activity center to keep their body fit.
True.
Okay? And the third is give them option for job. So these 3 ways is where we need to work.
Fantastic. Ma'am, in our country, do you think the elderly are a little more vulnerable compared to the other countries? When it comes to Europe, you can see people who are 80, 90, riding a bicycle or even working in a supermarket. But in our country, I don't know how to put this across to you. Is it the mindset or is it the society?
As I said, no, there's a word called ageism. So that is there and that we need to take out. We brand them. Okay, we brand them. Okay, they're old, they're like this, they're that, they're that. I guess, yes, they are more vulnerable because society really doesn't have time to look at the elderly population and understand. Now, in some way, sensitization has to begin in schools and colleges.
Absolutely.
And that's where it is needed. Go ahead and do a study and interview the youth in the college. Are they observing any elderly? What do they think? What do they think of their grandparents? You're not going to get any perfect answers about them. And the parents are so big. The present 40s and 50s, I call them sandwich generation. They have elderly to look after and they have children because, still to tend for.
Absolutely.
So definitely the lean is more towards the children and therefore they are vulnerable in the sense. In India, there's another challenge, is a huge rural population who are elderly.
Absolutely.
Urban is okay, things are happening, things are changing, but rural population, they are left on their own. I go to these villages and I do camps, and I see their what the need is. They are actually more vulnerable, left alone, to the extent sometimes neglect.
Absolutely.
And it's not but the thing is to reach out to rural elderly. So that's a bigger challenge in India. And urban elderly, yes, somewhere things are happening, but yes, there is neglect. And one thing that is coming out is elderly abuse, which is by words and by deeds. That is not wantingly done, but it is because society cannot support. There is carer fatigue. Carer does not have the time, economy, money, all that happens.
There's a lot more.
Yes,
issues.
and Indian mindset elderly, they're very difficult to handle because they have this steady mindset,
framework.
Yeah, they don't want to reach out. So many, I feel, when they ask, I always look at the carer's perspective also. They have their own challenges to deal with an elderly.
True.
Now, they're not going to listen, they have their mindset. So I think everything adds to make them more vulnerable. They themselves are responsible, and of course the society too.
I think, like you said, the people who are in 40s, 50s, this generation has become a sandwich.
Yeah, very
That
difficult.
is true. So it's going to be a little more harder for this generation to accept maybe the old age or the process of aging itself.
Absolutely.
But I think we are more prepared when it comes to younger generation. Okay, they know what to expect from their children. They know what to expect from a family and the society.
Yes.
Yeah. Looking for change maybe in the next 40, 50 years down the line.
Yes. And we need to do that. We are going there. And somewhere government have woken up, the civil society people have woken up, and that is why this time in C20, one of the main vertical was elderly care and end of life care. And I was very happy to be a part of the core committee, how to develop policies of what is the issues in developing countries with respect to elderly, what do we need to do. So 3 things we realized. One is security of elderly, that is utmost. Because you see so many things being happen where security is compromised. How do you, financial security, their physical security, those 2 things are very, very crucial. Then the care. So we need to have something called as long-term care. We either have a tertiary hospital or a home, which is very difficult. So we have some, elderly citizens' home. I don't want to call it as old age homes. Elderly citizens' homes, community living. It's coming up. But then it is for the very poor or the very rich.
Correct.
Now the middle class has nowhere to go. They cannot go into the poor, neither they can afford the very rich. So somewhere we have to deal with the middle class elderly also. And the third, training across. We have to train people how to look after elderly, especially the nursing care.
True.
and then make each city. My endeavor is to make Mysore elderly friendly city. So they should be able to be independent. They should be able to go anywhere, easily approachable, accessible, all of that. So make the city elderly friendly in these 3 respects.
Absolutely. The increasing number of elderly care centers, is it a good sign, or should we think about it again as a society?
I think somewhere we need to look what is practically right to do. Yes, emotions are there and all of that.
Yes.
But see, it's not large families now. So you need, you look at it in the right perspective.
Correct.
Many of the care homes are, they are like your own. You have an apartment, they all live together, they have a common kitchen, they have interactions.
I think they're much more happier because it's the same age group, and then they're free to do what they want.
Yeah, but then there is the other side of it also. I don't believe in having just a home where only elderly are there. Now somebody, passes away, and then it affects everyone else.
Yes.
So I think all these communities should have a mixture. You need to have a krish, and then you need to have a youth center, you need to have an elderly. So there is intergenerational.
Absolutely. That
mixing.
will be a perfect society.
That is what is need of the hour. Intergenerational mix.
Yes.
Unless you do that, you're going to brand them one, they are going to be separate, this is going to be separate. That is why, Tatas have started what is called as buddy program. Okay, tell one of the youth, go and adopt, find out who is there, who doesn't have anybody elderly, and adopt them.
Wow.
Okay, it's called as the buddy program.
Yes.
So that is what is needed.
Yes, I think like you said, the entire mindset of
Mindset.
students and
Yes.
youth and also our elderly
Community.
need to work in harmony
Absolutely.
for this perfect
Absolutely.
society.
And the medical profession have to look at the elderly population in a different way. They have you just they
It's
have
just medicines
they have
and
lot of
medicines.
comorbidities. They'll
Yes.
have list of it,
Correct.
and then they are with so many medications and everything. Hoardings, everything pushes you. The hoardings saying that we treat. In elderly, the lesser the medicines, that the better it is. There are other two types we need to involve. One is good nutrition, and next is good exercise,
True.
and
Absolutely.
that healthy part of it. So that's important. And as well as we look at mind, physical care, we have to take care of the mind also.
Rightfully said, ma'am. This dreaded disease of Alzheimer's. I had got an opportunity to go to an the senior care center, predominantly who are affected with Alzheimer's. My heart just broke. I couldn't even enter the place. Even today when I think about it, I get emotional. So how do families deal with this? How do the people who are around them deal with such a disease?
When we talk about memory, Alzheimer's is one part of memory loss. There's a huge gamut of umbrella that comes, and Alzheimer's is something. It's difficult to treat, not much has happened over there, but now lots of things are happening over there also in non-pharmacological therapy. We call it as brain gymming.
Correct.
Okay, there's a lot there, and we have to focus on that. But there's an area where there's a lot of treatable memory loss, and one needs to understand that. Again, everybody thinks that memory loss is Alzheimer's. No, it's only one part of the big umbrella of memory loss. How often have you sat down, if I may ask you this,
Sure, ma'am, sure.
and tried to figure out what's the level of your memory power? We don't. Today, if I ask you randomly 10 numbers, phone numbers, it'll not come to you.
Not at all. I was.
No. So
we lost the basic,
Yeah.
calculation
Calculations,
ability
yeah.
or anything
Yeah.
because of the mobile phone.
Yeah,
for sure.
and trust me, elderly. I'm now doing a study of screen time in elderly. Now, this is actually also causing cognition and worsening of memory,
Really?
hearing, vision, and it's creating a whole lot of a new disease. I'm calling it as acquired autism. All of us are developing that.
God.
It's so much we are there, and so elderly are even more affected. So memory loss is a huge challenge for the carers. The person who loses memory, he has a difficulty in the beginning of it.
Correct.
He's in conflict, and he knows he's losing it, and he's not able to deal with it. And but
tough.
once he loses his memory, then it's the carer. And it is very sad. I had this patient from village who's to go on and off, worsening of diabetes, worsening of hypertension. And one fine day I said, what's happening to him? And then I asked him, his son came, and the son went that side. I said, okay, where's your son gone? He smiled at me. I said, who's one? Then I realized there is something here. Then I asked, what's his name who brought you? He smiled. And then I said, who is he? He smiled and he said, very important person. Then the son came.
Oh.
I said, who's he? He didn't know. I said, can you name his name? He didn't know. Trust me, like you had tears in your eyes, the son cried.
Yeah, happens.
He realized his father doesn't know him.
Oh my God.
And the mother and father were alone in a village, so he didn't know whether he was taking medications, he was taking more medications, or he wasn't taking it at all. And the wife he was 85, the wife was 80, she was uneducated. And then the whole life of this family changed. They had to take their parents.
Oh
And
God.
I said,
It's tough. It's
It's
tough.
tough.
Yeah. It's so easy for people in the family to kind of blame the children for whatsoever reasons.
they should not.
It's very hard on the children.
Hard
It's
children.
very hard on the kids.
So in geriatrics, we not only look at elderly, we look at their carer difficulties. And we address carer difficulties as much as we address, the elderly difficulty. There, when you go to flight, there's an advertisement. When there is a pressure drop, first put oxygen mask on your face.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the carer has to look after himself first, and then he can care for the elderly.
Yes.
So it's both give, take.
Wow.
That's the journey.
Yeah. It is like, when I'm talking to you, it's all so emotional, and because we do connect to the seniors.
It is.
So
it is.
I'm glad that I'm speaking to you today about geriatric care, which is not, which is kind of neglected, but yes, now people are looking forward to a lot of change in the society.
Yes.
Ma'am, what is end of life program?
Okay. So end of life care is not only pertaining to geriatric, it will be pertaining to youth who mix with an accident and brain dead. So this is brain dead.
Okay.
But the situations of end of life care we see more often in the elderly, which is a challenge. Here is where the patient should be in a vegetative state.
Okay.
You have to prove that the person is brain dead, or there's a situation where there is absolutely nothing available.
Medically, clinically?
No options, no options at all. So most often say if you want, if the patient is on ventilator and brain dead and you have end of life care, means you're not going to do anything. Okay. So then usually there are a lot of legal documents now. ICMR has come out with document, Indian Palliative Care Society has come out with documents. When do you shift from palliative to end of life care? Everybody gets confused, palliative care is end of. No. Palliative care we try to maintain a quality of life for them, although cure is not so much. But end of life care, it's palliative care also is not there. Okay. So we just leave them alone. For example, we decrease oxygen, or we don't give them IV fluids, no more treatment options, we pull off everything. And there's a situation where patient is on ventilator, they say no, you just pull it off, we don't want.
Is it with the consent of the family?
It has. First of all, two doctors has to give opinion, the neurologist have to give opinion, and the ethics committee of the hospital or whatever has to say yes, you can go ahead with end of life care. We have to prove that it's a vegetative state. Then we speak to the family, and the family gives consent.
Is there a time frame that you consider?
There is no time frame.
Okay.
You have to give them time to understand.
Okay. Yeah.